All right, guys, we have got our in-depth preview here for the Pittsburgh Steelers. A funny football team. They've been very much the same team for 4 or 5, 6 years now, it feels like. And there's a lot of similarities here on this team, but there are also more differences than normal, I feel, on this team as well. So we're going to jump through it. We're going to start with the coaching as we always do, and we are going to move down into the roster, the schedule, our bet, all that fun stuff. And why don't we go ahead and start? Head coach Mike Tomlin, one of my favorite head coaches. He was since he got hired. Always seems to get more out of his team than probably just exists naturally. Gets more out of his team than probably a lot of other coaches would. And the way some of these receivers some of these players, receivers, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, some of these players have left and gone on, and the way they've acted other places, you can kind of see how well Tomlin was actually handling some of these things. So a good man manager as well. We like Mike Tomlin. Offensive coordinator Arthur Smith, not someone I love, but he sticks to what he does and is decent enough. It's not like actively horrible. May not be a good head coach, but probably someone who should find himself in an offensive coordinator position for as long as he wants, probably. It's decent enough. The run game's pretty good. Uses the tight ends quite a bit and can do enough. And that's all you're kind of looking for at the base here. So we'll see what happens there. But again, I'm not like, hey, Arthur Smith's like a top 15 dude. Arthur Smith is comfortably good enough to be an offensive coordinator. And then the defensive coordinator, Terrell Austin, him and Mike Tomlin do great things with this defense. And the defense is always the mainstay with this football team and has been for a very long time. So like the coaching staff. Again, there could be upgrades here, and there's a world where it's kind of stale, but you can't really fault some of the things that are happening here. Let's jump right on into the roster. Quarterback, Aaron Rodgers is the guy. Backup, Mason Rudolph. The third is Will Howard, the rookie they drafted. I normally don't mention the third, but the third is prominent here because there's a world where this tails off a little bit probably. And if you start really slow and you're like a 1-6 type team, not saying they will, but if you do start slow and you're 1-6, I think there's a world where you just kind of you skip Rudolph and go right to Will Howard. Or if something happens to Rodgers and it's going poorly, you get down to Will Howard. If the season's lost at any stage during the season, Will Howard's probably someone you would rather have in there than Mason Rudolph, just in terms of seeing what you got with the rookie. But Mason Rudolph's an okay backup. He is a drop-off from Aaron Rodgers, not some giant drop-off or anything. Solid backup. That's kind of what you're looking for there. Then Aaron Rodgers here. I'm under the impression Rodgers is just mostly washed. I didn't think he played particularly well last year. I thought he was well below average last year. He's another year older. He's like 40, whatever he is. Mobility's mostly gone. You're not going to get any real rushing here. And the things that made Aaron Rodgers who he was throughout his whole career have kind of left him. And, again, that's bound to happen at this age for most. But again, bottom 10 in bad throw rate. Below average and on target percentage. All those things were Rodgers' things. Being accurate with the football, not putting it in harm's way type stuff. All that along with bottom 5 intended air yards. So not only was he doing those things at a bottom 10 rate, he was doing it on shorter passes than everybody else in the league. So there is a worry here for me with the quarterback. That being said, there are weapons on the inside that he'll be able to use here. Because again, I don't think throwing to the boundaries is something he can do comfortably a ton anymore. But again, there will be weapons on the inside. Checkdowns, tight ends we'll talk about, that sort of stuff. Receivers in the slot. So again, there's room to work around it a little bit. And if the running game is good, you can definitely work around it. But there's also a world where that falls apart pretty quickly if you can't run the ball particularly well. And we're doing a lot of longer distance, 3rd and 7s, 3rd and 8s. That's a pretty big recipe for disaster considering the quarterback that Aaron Rodgers currently is. So we'll see going forward. Obviously, the off-the-field stuff that comes with Rodgers is, even if you agree with it politically or don't agree with it politically or whatever it may be, any of that stuff is a distraction, if anything. So yeah, there's a world where this kind of falls apart. I'm not expecting it to like all the way fall down the rabbit hole here, but like I'm not expecting like a top half kind of performance out of Rodgers. So we'll see. Running back, interesting. Jaylen Warren is here. They draft Caleb Johnson, the rookie. They hope they could have a 1-2 punch here. Kenneth Gainwell is a pretty good third as well. Warren's okay. Warren's not a guy I want running in between the tackles a ton. And I thought a lot of his production comes off the back of like, running on third down and, there's more space there and, some out into exterior stuff. And again, that might just be where Warren is this year if Caleb Johnson hits. But I don't want Warren out there 1, 2, 3. Definitely not. But again, can move in space, can catch. And that's kind of what you're looking for out of a back like him. Again, Caleb Johnson comes in. I don't have much to say on Caleb Johnson. I didn't watch a ton of his running back tape. I didn't watch a ton of his college stuff, And again, from what we've seen in the preseason, it's not like I can give you, he's had like 8 carries. He looked slow in the first game, looked fine in the second game. Like I have nothing for you. So we'll see what Caleb Johnson ends up being. Again, there's a decent third there. Should like a Warren go down, should a Johnson go down. Gainwell is solid. But it's a fine running back room, and until we see what the rookie is, there's nothing much more we can really do with it. Wide receiver, Pickens out, DK Metcalf in. That is a slight upgrade for me, not a big one. I'm pretty low on both of these wide receivers, or both of those wide receivers. Metcalf, I think, is pretty overrated. A definite 1, of course, like a number 1 wide receiver. But Pickens, I was also low on. I think he's a high-end 2 and not really even a 1. So it is an upgrade there. I will not say it isn't. Just gets paid, moves into a new system, should be the guy. We'll see what it's like. He had some issues last year in Seattle in terms of not getting the football and some more public-y kind of outbursts on the football field, on the sideline stuff. We'll see if that follows here. I'm not sure it will or not, but I'm not so sure this comes in and it's a better situation for him. There were more pass catchers at wide receiver in the other place, so he's going to get the full attention here from corners and safeties. I expect a decent amount of bracketing with him. So there's a world where he's just not ultra productive in terms of statistically, but there's a world where he's swallowing up a safety and a number 1 corner every snap, so he'll be helping on the football field that way, if anything. So again, we'll see. Calvin Austin here, he's okay. He's got some nice traits there. He's quick, and I expect him to have a decent year here, but this is a high-end 3 like max. This is not really a 2, and there aren't really any 2s here. Robert Woods is someone who's completely gone. Scotty Miller, Roman Wilson, we'll see. There's always the potential there with Roman Wilson, and Aaron Rodgers seems to like him from what from what he said and things like that so far in the preseason and training camp. But until we see it, I can't like project it anywhere, and we'll see. Have him in my dynasty league, so hopefully he's useful. But then you got Ben Skoranek here too, so you have a low-end 1 and a high-end 3 and a whole lot of 4s, maybe. If you're being nice, like Robert Woods is this being nice, he's going to be the 3 probably, and that's being kind. Skoranek, the same. Scotty Miller, more of a gadget guy, deep threat type sometimes. So again, I don't love this wide receiver room. It's not very high on my list, but there is, some pieces there that are okay. Tight end, top 10 unit for sure. Freiermuth is solid, big fella. And then they go ahead and trade for Jonnu Smith, who's really talented and I'm of the opinion that Jonnu gets a ton of work, just screens and fun little things like that Arthur Smith loves to do with Jonnu Smith in particular. Then you have Darnell Washington here, big body, can block for sure, and we'll see if he kind of gets a little bit more into the pass game and stuff like that. I'm not sure he will. He doesn't necessarily have he's a big guy and all that fun stuff, but he can't really jump, doesn't really have the speed, so I'm not so sure if he ever gets to a point where he's getting where he's just running a bunch of routes. I don't think that ever gets there, and I'm not saying that's what you need at tight end, but if you're just a blocking tight end, it's that's what you are, a blocking tight end, and we're talking more pass catchers in this scenario here. But again, a nice body to have for sure. So a good room. Again, I expect a lot of productivity here, especially considering who the quarterback is and how the offensive line is set up as well. So yeah, good room. Offensive line, interesting-ish. It's low on my board. There's 2 good players here on the inside, 2 bad players, one at guard, one at left tackle, which is huge, and then a question mark with Fautanu, of course. But we can run through it here. There's definitely potential to move up with this team here, or with this unit, from the base grade I gave it. Broderick Jones just hasn't really got it yet. This is his 3rd year going in now. He just has to get it for this offensive line to take a step at left tackle in particular for an older quarterback who's not as mobile. So needs to be much better. Isaac Seumalo, good guard, good player, has been for a while. Center Zach Frazier, played like a top 10, top 5 kind of center last year. He was very, very good, and this is the bright spot on this offensive line to me. Mason McCormick at right guard, not good. Another one that's just not good. Whether, again, him or Broderick Jones take a step or kind of solidify themselves, I'm not sure. He is in between a good center, and we're going to talk about Fautanu in a minute, but if he hits, then you're kind of hidden a little bit at right guard, and that might just bring it up a touch, because you can kind of hide guards a little bit. But until then, we'll have to see. And then again, Fautanu is probably going to start at right tackle, the draft pick from 2 years ago who missed all the games except 2 last year, I think it was. And again, it's a question mark for me. I liked him coming out of the draft. But again, missing a year of football, a developmental football, is a big issue, number one. And number two, he didn't start particularly well. He was okay. So, I'm not going to hold that against him, but I can't go ahead and come in and be like, can't stick in like a first round talent considering his situation just as a measure. So a question mark there until we get a little bit more information, a couple weeks worth at least. So again, there's room for this line to grow up. If Fautanu hits, you're looking at a good right tackle, and you're hopeful to hide the right guard in there. If Broderick Jones can take a step, maybe, but there's also a downturn here. Again, Fautanu doesn't hit maybe, and then you're looking at 3 spots on the offensive line, including both tackles, with a old, aging, non-mobile quarterback in behind. So there's an up and a down here, and we'll see where that ends up. Defense, of course, we were talking earlier, this is the best part of this team and has been for a little bit. The defensive line, really, really good. This is my number 2 D-line. We'll talk about why in a second, but the pass rushing and just the talent across the board is really great. You got TJ Watt, of course, on the edge, a top 3-4 guy. I'd put him at 3 for me. I think he's behind Parsons, behind Garrett, and I think he's comfortably behind those 2. An excellent finisher, really, really great. Keep expecting at some stage that the pressures have gone down a little bit and the sacks haven't. One of those 2 things probably evens itself out. Either he gets more pressures or he gets less sacks. Obviously, until then, can't tell you which one, but eventually something there will even itself out. And he's getting a little bit older. Just got his contract as well, so good for him. And again, a very, very, very good pass rusher. Alex Highsmith, another one. fantastic pass rusher. Played like a top 10 guy last year. Looking at 2 top 10-ish edge rushers on this team. Very, very good. You also had Herbig, who's kind of a rotational pass rusher, but played, again, like a top 20 dude. So even if Watt or Highsmith were to miss a game or two, there is talent in behind and depth in behind. On the interior, Cam Hayward, he's fantastic. Defies age at the moment. He is 36, so, can't like say there's no fall off coming, or like if someone were to predict a fall off, can't like go against that. For me, until he definitely declines, then that's just what it is. He's just going to outdo it. It's like Trent Williams or Derrick Henry or whatever. Some dudes just, or Tom Brady, like some dudes just go past their age curve and just ignore it completely. Cam Hayward's been doing that. He has that thing with the contract. We'll see what that turns out to be. But we'll see. Keanu Benton, solid, young. You hope he continues to take steps. So the front four there is really, really good. Derek Harmon, new draft, number 21 in the draft, first round talent. We'll see what he's like. But again, another high drafted guy on the defensive line. So again, really, really talented here. Why it's number 2 for me. Last year, pass rush win rate, number 3 in the league. Very, very good, obviously. Run stop win rate, number 17. This is an average unit when it comes to stopping the run. And that can be for a variety of reasons. But it also prevents me from putting him at number 1. Again, you got the talent there. The pass rushing stuff is super, super excellent. But again, you got to be able to do both. And they're about average in terms of the run stop, but everything else is just incredible. Linebacker, slightly above average. I really like Peyton Wilson. Good linebacker, really good in coverage. Not much of a run stop guy as the team is, like as a whole. But again, good coverage linebacker, good linebacker in general. Top 20 type guy. Patrick Queen is the other one. You guys are not going to I am not going to get to a point where I really like Patrick Queen until something changes with his metrics. Like, he's a pop kind of guy when you watch tape. He's always in the frame. He's always getting tackles, that kind of stuff. He's a really good pass rusher, good blitzer. He's terrible in coverage, terrible in run stop, and you kind of need that at linebacker. And again, he pops off tape because he's always around and he's always hitting hard and stuff. But the coverage stuff, really bad. The run stop stuff, really bad. Again, the pass rushing stuff is nice. The blitzing stuff is really nice. The rest of the stuff you need at linebacker is just not good. And again, he pops a little bit on tape because of some of the things he does in terms of finishing off some stuff. And he's just like one of those names. Oh, Patrick Queen was there again. There's another sack for Patrick Queen. A lot of yards against, a lot of not good stuff in run defense. I need to see way more out of Patrick Queen before I move him up the line. He's had 6 seasons. He's had 2 slightly good grades. Last year or 2 years ago, he was graded pretty well. He had a good coverage year. That, from what I've seen in his career, that feels more like an outlier than it does like this is who Patrick Queen is. So we'll see with him going forward. Secondary, a solid unit. Is slightly above average for me. It's a safety room that's okay. You got Deshaun Elliott. He's a top 30 guy, right on edge. Solid enough, nothing great. And you got Thornhill, another guy who's a little bit more like a top 40-ish guy. It's not a fantastic room. It's not a horrible room. It's okay. And I'm under Minka was there and he wasn't fantastic. And under the impression that you can replace safety pretty comfortably. Like, you don't need a high-end safety to replace a high-end safety for the secondary to be a good unit. But again, this is okay. Nothing fantastic. And again, Fitzpatrick's out the door. And who comes in the door is Ramsey. In terms of The secondary here, do not mind it at all. The trade-wise, I didn't have a problem with it. I thought the Steelers did well in this trade. You bring in a good corner. Ramsey's continuing to play like a good corner, and he's healthy a good chunk. 2 years ago, he missed some games, but other than that, he's been mostly healthy his career, and he still continues to be very good. Slay is solid, kind of declining a bit in coverage. Again, getting older, so, there's a world where that falls off a touch, but nothing crazy there. And again, it's solid, nothing spectacular. Then you got, Bishop, Joey Porter Jr. They weren't good last year. It's as simple as that. The coverage was really bad. So someone's going to have to step up and be that third corner, you think. But for the moment, the secondary or the corner room is a really good corner, an average corner, and a bad corner. And until someone steps up in that room, that's kind of just what it's going to be for me. So again, it's an okay unit, nothing spectacular. There's a really good player on it, and then the rest is okay to solid outside that third corner spot. So again, you don't need to be fantastic in the secondary here because the defensive line is getting to the quarterback all the time. But also, when you're bad, makes it harder on the defensive line. So we'll see here. But if you're good and you have a good defensive line, obviously, you're looking at a defense that's really, really difficult to break down. So we'll see how it goes going forward. But again, a very solid defense anchored by an incredibly good pass rushing unit. As for the schedule, an interesting one. It starts off really nicely with some, 4 or 5 winnable games. You're at the Jets week 1, Seattle at home, at New England, and then Minnesota it's Ireland or England. Minnesota plays in both, and they play the next week in the other one. I think it's in Ireland, but might be in England, one of those two. Right before the bye there, and then you have Cleveland coming home, and that Cleveland spot is like the worst spot on earth for Cleveland. Like, Cleveland go to Detroit, and then they play the second leg of Minnesota's doubleheader. So fresh Minnesota waiting there for Cleveland, who travels overseas, and then they come back and go to Pitt. Like, that is like the worst 3-game spot I've seen in ages, or like genuinely horrific. So that's one of those scheduled wins theoretically, though it is a division game. And then gets a little bit harder here. You go to Cincinnati, Green Bay at home, Indianapolis at home, at the Chargers. A difficult stretch. Again, 2 tough road games and 2 games at home, Green Bay in particular, against talented teams. Then you got Cincinnati at home, at Chicago. That's up in the air what they're going to be. The Cincinnati at home begins a really tough stretch. Then there's a really tough stretch here. You get Buffalo, at Baltimore, Miami at home, and then at Detroit is a really difficult stretch. You drop 3 of those, who can blame you type stuff. Then at Cleveland, and then Baltimore at home to finish the season. You're hoping that Baltimore, I guess, wraps the division up and wraps the 1 seed up, maybe, and then you can, if you're pushing for the playoffs, you're getting a team that's not playing starters, I guess. But again, it starts off nice. The back end, a little bit more difficult. And an early bye. I always dislike early buys for teams that want to make playoff pushes. I prefer getting healthy guys back in the back end of the season, getting a week there to kind of refresh and restart yourself for the final push. But early one here. So yeah, it's an interesting schedule. And in terms of futures, I didn't really love anything in terms of win totals or props or anything super crazy like that. Again, in terms of ceiling, this team feels like ceiling 11 wins, and an early playoff loss. That's just what it is. You got an older quarterback, some offensive line issues, and the skill position group isn't great. And there's a world where, like, you got one good secondary player, and there's a lot of tails to the down here for me as well. So again, I don't love the ceiling in terms of just betting like an over-under. Normally I like ceiling stuff. There is a long tail down, I believe. Like, if you want to do all unders and stuff, like, that would make sense in terms of just tail downward stuff. But the coaching here is so good that they end up winning a game or two that they normally shouldn't. And that's always how it goes. So again, I don't want any of that stuff. So we went with a different prop here. Steelers to kick a field goal in every game this season at plus 700, a 70-cent bet for us in our challenge. Again, I don't love this offense. And again, there's so much tailed down here. And with a coordinator who likes, tight end stuff and run stuff, and a head coach that's sort of conservative, with an older quarterback who's declining a little bit, and an offensive line who's not that great, and wide receiver room that's kind of empty outside one or two names. This doesn't scream super, super, super efficient to me, which means a lot of drives stopping near the red zone or outside the red zone, and a lot of field goal attempts for me. So we're going to run with that one, and hopefully we can go ahead and cash that, guys. And there we are. That is it. The Pittsburgh Steelers.